Erich Kühn was born at Chemnitz in Saxony on 22nd of May 1892, the son of a train driver, but evidently of solidly middle-class social status. By 1913, Erich had begun his career with a bank, and took the costly but convenient option of choosing to fulfill his peacetime military service obligation as a one-year volunteer, einjährig Freiwilliger, potentially the first step toward gaining a socially prestigious commission as a reserve officer. Consequently, he was already serving when the war broke out and the Royal Saxon Army was mobilized. In October 1914, Erich was sent to the Western Front with the rank of Vizefeldwebel, Vice Sergeant Major, and serving as an acting platoon commander, or Offiziersstellvertreter, in Reserve Infantry Regiment 244. This regiment was part of the new 27th Reserve Corps, formed and trained in extreme haste in the kingdoms of Saxony and Württemberg that summer. A dismayingly large proportion of its men had no pre-war training. Some of them were the famous war volunteers of August. Others, usually older and less enthusiastic, had been passed over for service in peacetime and assigned to the untrained Ersatzreserve list. These novice soldiers were drilled and led by older NCOs, mainly from the Landwehr, whose own training lay far in the past. As for their officers, most had been recalled from desk jobs or from full retirement. Together with 3 Prussian Reserve Corps and a Bavarian Reserve Division of similar character, 27th Reserve Corps was assigned to 4th Army's offensive against Ypres and the Channel ports beyond, a final desperate attempt to end the war in the West before the end of the year. The result was the First Battle of Ypres, a costly disaster for the Germans which would devolve into static trench warfare by late November. On the 24th of October 1914, Erich Kühn's regiment launched a major attack west of the Flemish village of Becelaere. RIR 244 succeeded in overrunning the British defenders from 2nd Battalion Wiltshire Regiment and 2nd Battalion Royal Scots Fusiliers, but only at the cost of catastrophic losses. Among the casualties was Erich Kühn, who had been severely wounded leading his company in the assault after all of its officers had fallen. The following is a letter from Erich Kühn to his parents. Dessau, 7th of November, 1914. My dears, now at last I have the time to write to you at greater length. I will start again from the beginning. We were marched for a few days after the railway journey. On the 21st October, we got into a battle which continued for the whole day. On the 22nd, we heard that Duderstadt and Lieutenant Lankow had been wounded on the previous day. The fighting continued, then suddenly the Hauptmann was wounded, and I was acting company commander. Soon after that, the Feldwebel was also wounded. We lay in the trenches all night, then for all the following day and night. On the 24th we advanced, and first a shot went straight through the full length of my backpack, without hitting me. However, it came so close that I felt the heat of it on my back. As I ran further forwards, I received a dreadful blow in the face. After that I was unconscious, but not for long. I was then carried behind a house, and it was not long before the stretcher-bearers brought me to the church in Becelaere, where there was a dressing station. Our Unterarzt, Dr. Kohlberg, bandaged me at once, which was very nice of the fellow, and ensured that I was taken onward to a field hospital. I have much to be thankful to the man for. In the field hospital, from which I wrote you before, I was more thoroughly bandaged, but it wasn't cosy there. There was only straw and a sack of chaff for a pillow, besides which the shells kept landing disturbingly close by. On the 30th, we went on by motor to Roulers, and then by train to Ghent, where they removed the splinter, which hurt abominably. But other than that, it was really pleasant in Ghent. I haven't described before what I have by way of a wound. It seems that the bullet went in somewhere near the nose and came out at the neck under the ear. I was really lucky, thank God, because if it had hit the carotid artery, that would have been it. Anyhow, it's all progressing well. I'm not in much pain. I'm only unable to bite, but I'm managing well with food. On 2nd November, we set out on the hospital train. First it was supposed to go on to Stettin, then Halle, and finally we remained in Dessau. Here I am being extremely well looked after. I share a room with another Offiziersstellvertreter. We have good beds and very good food. Only I don't know when I'll be able to come home again. As far as my kit is concerned, I haven't a thing left. They took the backpack off me when they carried me back, and my service belt with pistol, map case and bread bag when they loaded me onto the stretcher. The binoculars and glasses were broken when I fell. My helmet was completely crushed. I handed my sword in a few days before to the company transport and probably won't see that again either. However, they will probably send my trunk to Chemnitz. Maybe you'll get it. I can't think of much else to write for the moment. I haven't written to anyone else. Back then I had so little time, and now I can't because I've lost the addresses. Do write to me soon at greater length. I'm curious. But it'll be no use sending me anything if I don't write for it. I hope you're all doing well for now. Warmest regards, Erich. The published history of RIR 244 reveals that, as one might expect, Erich was actually playing down the horror of his experiences. While at the dressing station in the church at Becelaere, he barely survived an ordeal which he glosses over entirely in his letter to his parents. On 25th October, the church, although bearing a Red Cross flag visible at great distances, received several direct hits from heavy artillery. The shells punched through the roof into the central hall, which was closely packed with Saxon and Württemberg casualties, and wrought fearful devastation. Under the leadership of the medical officers, all present sprung into action to save the helpless, heavily injured cases. But the stretchers were not enough. Under the most intense artillery fire, wagons raced onto the especially vulnerable square in front of the church and were loaded with the severely wounded, while everyone who could still walk clung onto these wagons in order to escape the hell of Becelaere. Likewise, opposite the church at the White House, also densely filled with casualties, shells had penetrated the roof. Senior Medical Officer Dr. Lorisch, covered from head to toe in lime and dust, personally hauled the wounded from the burning house. From the rubble of the church, Junior Medical Officer Kohlberg managed to rescue Acting Platoon Commander Kühn, who had been severely wounded on 24th October by 5 shots to the head. The rescue operation cost the stretcher bearers 2 dead and 3 wounded. From Dessau, Erich was eventually transferred to the internationally renowned Charité in Berlin for reconstructive surgery. There he wrote to his parents and sister the following letter, to which the doctor assigned to his case has added his own postscript. Berlin, 3rd February 1915. My dears, when my Herr Professor Bayer here passed on Sister Ketter's greeting, I did not know for the time being what was actually going on. Anyhow, your enormous concern is totally groundless. The clouds have cleared. If there had really been any serious grounds for concern, I would already have informed you. As an old soldier proven in battle, I counsel you, don't fret and take your time. So for today, finest and warmest regards, your Erich.
Dear Fraulein Ketter, well, as you can see, your Herr brother is doing quite well. I was unfortunately forced to explore the wound again, because there were still 2 to 3 small fragments which had to be removed. After that, a fever set in, which, however, has now passed. Your Herr brother is lying in bed right now, rosy as a young girl. His delicate skin tone gives him an interesting complexion. He reads, writes, drinks coffee with enthusiasm, and no longer swears. And should be on his feet in the next few days. Warmest greetings, though unknown to you, alas, my dear Fraulein, Professor Klein.
Erich Kühn did eventually recover sufficiently to return to duty, although he would never be past fit to return to the front. Having already commanded a platoon, and briefly an entire company in battle, he was granted an officer's commission as a Lieutenant der Reserve. This photo, taken in 1918, shows him as adjutant of a Saxon Home Service unit, Landsturminfanteriebataillon Döbeln. Thanks to the world-class plastic surgeons at the Charité, there are no visible traces of his facial wound, though he is surely showing his best side for the camera. Although he was spared any further combat, Erich sadly did not survive the war. According to his death certificate, Erich passed away in a military hospital at Döbeln on 26th of October 1918. He was 26. No cause of death is given, but the published casualty list states that he died of illness. Erich was, in all probability, a victim of the Spanish flu pandemic, which was then ravaging Germany.